Boys, this is every single match type that has ever happened in WWE and has some importance to it. So, let's go over it. Let's start the good old classic singles match. Okay, grab it. There we go. Now, obviously I can't put this too high because it's just a singles match, but it has given us some of the best matches of all time and some of the worst. But since it's standard singles match, I'm gonna put in really good. Because when done right, singles matches, even if there's no stipulations to them, can be some of the best matches of all time. So it obviously gets my vote as really good. It can't be at Give Creative a raise because nothing really happened that's super special throughout the match, and it's a basic match, but it's still really good. All right. The next style of match I'm going to do is a ladder match. Now, a ladder match is another one that's really, really good. Everybody loves climbing the ladders, people grabbing the briefcase or grabbing the championship or whatever's up there. And, super high stakes because everybody's high above the ring. But I don't think it's at that level of Give Creative a raise because, again, I feel like it's very overused tropes in ladder match. Always the slow climb, the pushing down, the no, the hanging off the title. And it really depends on the people in the match that make the match, not so much what's booked in the match. But I will say, I think ladder matches are way more special than just regular singles matches. Here's one that's a little bit of the same. It's the Money in the Bank match. Honestly, I think the Money in the Bank match is a little bit better than regular ladder matches, but it's got to stay in that same category if we're being real. Alright, now let's start with special guest referees. So, when the referee is good, when the match is booked well, it's pretty good. The only problem is, whenever they have these types of matches, it's always something that the referee does something wrong, the wrestlers get mad, and then they end up pushing the referee, they end up hitting them, and then going against them, and blah, 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 blah. It's the same trope over and over again, and honestly, I don't particularly care for special guest referee matches, but I will say they're pretty decent. Similarly, NXT Underground matches. They're okay. The entire point of it is some MMA battle, but it's really a glorified lumberjack match. And they're cool, I guess, but I usually feel like the endings of their matches are pretty lackluster. So again, I'm going to put it decent. I feel like it's worse than special guest referee matches, but they're still pretty enjoyable to watch. And on that same topic, lumberjack matches. They're essentially NXT Underground matches with ropes. And, who even knows what a lumberjack match does? Let's be real here. Sometimes they can hit the opponents when they come out the ring. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes they go after one guy more. Sometimes they switch places, against the Big Show. So, I don't really care for them. I feel like it just kind of restricts what the wrestlers can do because they don't have that space to go outside. Some cool spots can happen, but, it's okay, I guess. Alright. Steel cage matches. Now, these are always hyped up as being super brutal and everything, but I honestly think they're a worse version of Hell in a Cell because the steel cage around the ring really limits what the wrestlers can do with the ropes, suicide dives, going outside the ring, everything like that. So while the matches are cool, and I do think they're better than these, I don't think it's at that level of really good ladder matches or even just regular matches because they're so much better than, a steel cage just restricts the movement and the storytelling, and it's honestly not anything cool because you can't even bring weapons in or something. Alright. Multi-man matches, which is pretty close to my singles matches. This one is kind of for all multi-man matches, so we go triple threats, fatal four-ways, fatal five-ways, that kind of stuff. It's really fun and it can be booked super well, But also, I don't feel like it's that creative. It's just like, man, we just put a whole bunch of guys in the match, so it's gonna go with the single matches. And I honestly think sometimes they're too cluttered, but I will put them right above because the no DQ stipulation of some of them does make them pretty cool. On the opposite side of the spectrum, there's the blindfold match. Who thought of a blindfold match and said, you know what? Yeah, this would be a good idea, right? Worst idea ever because one, if they're actually blindfolded, nobody can see them. Two, if they aren't actually blindfolded, everybody knows they're not. Who let this happen? Like, who signed off on this? One of the weirdest match types ever. On the other side of the spectrum again, last man standing matches. These would be like super good because I love how they're done. Unfortunately, they're just too slow because by the end of the match, all you get is, oh, big finisher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God, he's up. Oh, big finisher. 1, 2, 3. You know, you just go back and forth. Like that super long 10 count in the middle, which kind of breaks it up. So I'm going to put in really good. I don't think it's quite as good as a regular singles match sometimes because regular singles matches are some of the best you can do, but it's still really good. Now this one may be a little bit controversial, but I think that there's something so special of forcing your opponent to speak the words, I quit, in front of a worldwide audience. And when done correctly, like if you guys have ever seen Cara Noir versus Spike Trivet, even though that's a indie wrestling match, that is what I Quit matches should have been. You know, it won match of the year for Progress Wrestling, and it was one of the best matches I've watched. So this is the first one I'm going to put and give creative a raise because there's something so special about getting someone you hate to speak the words, I quit. Now, we're going to go back to like the singles match type tag team matches. They're essentially singles matches with two people involved. They can be really good, but I feel like they're just not as special as that singles match moment when you get people like The Rock and John Cena in the ring, or Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. So they're going to be really good because I really like tag team matches. I think they're really underrated match type. But you know, there's not a lot of creativity in them, and I feel like they're a little bit worse than regular, like, big singles matches. Now, this one goes with the steel cage idea, but it's without the cage. Inferno matches seem like they would be good on paper, right? But all they do is really restrict the movement of the wrestlers inside the ring because they can't get too close to the ropes lest they be put on fire and end up ending the match early. So, I mean, they're decent to watch, but I really feel like they're just restrict movement inside the ring. And, you know, if they're sitting on fire, maybe it was cool back in the day, but it's not that cool anymore. And essentially, just a steel cage match without the steel cage. So yeah. Alright, this one is the beat the clock. This literally has the same problem as the steel cage match, except that, you know, you're just restricting how much time they can do. I feel like it doesn't add that much sense of drama because we know either somebody's going to win or they're just going to draw and they're going to end up going longer anyways. So it's going to go on who let this happen, honestly. It's just a regular singles match, but you're just restricting the amount of time they have to tell a story, which is already restricted. You're just putting a clock up. So I feel like there's no point in ever having a beat the clocks type of match or a time limit type of match, whatever you want to call it. Similarly, Battle Royals. They're worse versions of the Royal Rumble. Nobody can see what's going on because there's 20 guys just going all in the ring. And I mean, I'm sure people have had this opinion before, but I mean, it's just a trash match. Let's be real here. And, you know, let's just round off my favorite one to put in who let this happen. The idea behind this tier was because of this match, and I bet you guys can already guess what it was. Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton in the Punjabi prison. My God, worst version of a steel cage match. The whatever bamboo bars restricted their movement so much, and nobody could see anything. There was just a wall of yellow in between them and the wrestlers. And then the Great Khali came out and did Great Khali things, which is never a good thing. So unfortunately, this is the worst match type of all time. Whoever decided that a Punjabi prison match would be a good idea? On the other side of the spectrum, whoever made Hell in a Cell matches is a genius. They are just better steel cage matches. They have some of the best storytelling of all time, because when I say Mankind versus Undertaker, what's the first thing you think of? Mankind getting thrown off Hell in a Cell into a table. Am I right? When I say something like even Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens, that crazy elbow spot that McMahon did off of the steel cage, Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell creates some of the best moments of all time when used correctly. And, it was kind of awkward when they put it as a pay-per-view, but now that they have it outside of that, matches like Drew McIntyre and CM Punk are match of the year contenders because of how good their Hell in a Cell match was. Whoever came up with this idea should have been raised to the moon. Let's start with another really good match. Extreme Rules, no holds barred, street fight style matches. These are really good because of the creativity that goes in it, but honestly, I'm going to put it just below ladder matches. I don't know what it is, but something about climbing a ladder instead of just pinning your opponent makes them so much more high stakes and way cooler. Anyways, no holds barred, Extreme Rules matches are still super, super good. And, some of the spots they do in there is crazy, like Shawn Michaels' elbow through the trash can. And I feel like they don't get enough recognition for how well you have to plan everything in something like an Extreme Rules match, as long as they don't use the same trope as like chairs and everything. Adding new weapons in all the time is what makes them really good. On the other hand, you've got the mud pool match. I'm gonna put this just above Punjabi prison because Who Let This Happen was made for Punjabi prison. But like, whoever goes, you know what? I would love to see a mud pool match. Nobody wants to see a mud pool match. And it's just used to humiliate people when they really get mad at them anyways. Alright, hear me out. When used correctly, arm wrestling matches and stuff can actually be pretty decent. Like the one with Shane McMahon and Hulk Hogan was pretty funny. And I think that, if it happens really occasionally and they do it in like a funny kind of skit, arm wrestling matches, they could be really good. So like, don't hate me on this one. NXT Deadline might be the best invention since the Hell in a Cell match. Let's be real here. Whoever decided, or actually probably War Games, but whoever decided that NXT Deadline would be a good idea should be given a raise immediately. It's such a good match. The penalty box adds such an interesting component to the match. And I loved this recent one with Javon Evans and Obafemi, with Javon almost tying it right before the match ended. And it was super, super cool to watch. So NXT Deadline, one of the best matches that been created in this century, let's be real here. On the subject of NXT, NXT War Games also goes and give creative raise. You took the idea of a steel cage match and a tag team match, you made them have a baby, and then you gave that baby steroids. That is what an NXT War Games match is. You were able to fix the problem that steel cages have where you restrict the movement by giving them 2 rings to work with. You were able to fix the problem that steel cages have that you can't bring weapons in by allowing people to bring weapons in, and that sort of drip feed into the all-out chaos at the end is just perfect. And I love how they did it with Undisputed Era back in NXT, and I'm loving how they're doing it with Judgment Day and Bloodline right now. Casket matches are pretty good as a gimmick match, but I wouldn't say something like Carmelo Hayes versus Apollo Crews casket match, if I'm correct on that one, is something good. You know, casket matches are pretty much Undertaker's match, and if they're used anytime else, they're decent, but I wouldn't go out of my way to watch them. Similarly, ambulance matches are essentially glorified casket matches, although I think they're a little bit better because they're more universal. I'm not going out of my way to watch an ambulance match when you could have just had an Extreme Rules match anyways. On the other hand, probably the last of the Give Creative Arrays matches is the Elimination Chamber. I think you know why. This is one of the best match types they've ever created. Some of the spots that have been in there are amazing. This is actually where the first of like Logan Paul's viral Royal Rumble stunt with Ricochet was done, when Kofi Kingston and CM Punk did this inside of Elimination Chamber, if I'm not wrong. So, I mean, this is one of the best matches they've ever done. The high stakes, the drip feed into the chaos again, and usually the championship or the championship opportunities you get out of it just makes this match super good. Tables matches are decent. I just feel like they're not very creative. They're like, yeah, fans like the tables, right? So why don't we just have someone put them through a table? And that would be really cool, right? And it was okay, but I mean, there was also matches like Cody Rhodes versus The Big Show, and he just kind of stepped on the table, which was a little weird. So yeah, it's decent. I'd say it's better than Steel Cage, but you know, still kind of nah. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch a tables match. Strat matches. I don't know who decided that strat matches were tough, but they're just so silly. You know, you just get to watch wrestlers fumble around with the belt for 15 minutes and they hit each other with it. That's probably the coolest part of the match, but I feel like it has that same problem where the movement of the wrestlers is so restricted because they have to be essentially 6 feet from each other max at all times, and it just makes the entire match kind of slow paced. And for especially like wrestlers like Trick William, he can't get something going when he's tied to his opponent the entire time. For this next match, I know Vince Russo is somewhere, and his thing is extremely hard right now because we've got weapon on a pole matches. Vince Russo's best, and honestly, the best match of all time. Or not. Weapon on a pole matches are the stupidest match of all time. I mean, you're essentially just allowing them to use a weapon, except it's on a pole. Who cares if it's on a pole or not? I remember Alexa Bliss and Bayley had a kendo stick on a pole match, and that was genuinely one of the worst matches I've ever watched. It almost made me quit watching wrestling because it was so bad. I hope that this doesn't happen with this match ever again. I hope that they never show it again because it's terrible. And Vince Russo, this match sucked. Stop putting things on a pole. I don't want to see another hatchet handle on the pole match ever again. First blood matches. I think too much can go wrong with the first blood match because, you know, you have a spot in which you're going to bleed, obviously, but it's possible that you bleed beforehand and the whole match gets ruined. And also, at this point, they're not even that cool. Like, oh, I made my opponent bleed, match over. Like, what if he's still up and moving? Then there's no point in the match. He's still okay, he's just bleeding. Anyways, Falls Count Anywhere matches go right with Extreme Rules matches. I think they're a little bit cooler because watching them go around the arena doing the falls is a little bit cooler than just being in the ring to have to make the pin. But sometimes it gets a little overused where they're out in the parking lot where nothing can really happen because they don't want to take bumps on concrete. So I'd say it's a little bit worse in Extreme Rules match just because the trope of Falls Count Anywhere gets a little too emphasized to the point where, you know, none of these matches will ever end in the ring. They'll end in like the public toilets or something. I know this isn't really a match type, but backstage balls are pretty cool. I wouldn't say they're great, and I wouldn't go out of my way to be like, oh yeah, I want to watch a backstage ball match, but they're still pretty good. I'd say I put them above the arm wrestling and honestly underground matches, but they're not quite as good as like special guest referees or anything like that. Submission matches are just okay because you're essentially taking what is a singles match and just removing one of the fall options, which kind of gets a little cringe if you're in a match where a guy doesn't have a lot of submissions to do. So, it's just the worst singles match. I don't know what it is. On the other hand, the Survivor Series match, I would put it and give creative a raise, but I think it's really good because, when, at least in my era of watching wrestling, the Survivor Series match was always Raw versus SmackDown, and quite honestly, I never really cared. So, while they're fun to watch, I don't feel like they have the stakes behind them. Unless it was different back in the day, and I just don't know, but from my era, they just didn't have the stakes behind them. Royal Rumble matches, round out, give creative a raise. I mean, there's a reason that Royal Rumble is now one of the big four. The stakes behind the Royal Rumble, the crazy returns, the chaos, it's all great. And it's solidified as one of the best matches WWE puts on every single year. Quite honestly, I don't even know. Oh, yeah, okay. This one is the Iron Man match. Now, the idea is really good, having them wrestle for 60 minutes, blah, 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 blah. I think the best Iron Man match I watched was probably Cara Noir versus Chris Ridgway, because it was like a 20 or 30 minute Iron Man match, which is way better than the 60-minute one because the wrestlers just get so tired. And for that sake, I'm going to put it in decent. I would put it at the top of decent, but decent is this category where, they're pretty cool, but I wouldn't go out of my way to watch an Iron Man match, and that's pretty much the case. I feel like by the end, they get a little too slow because wrestlers are too tired. And while the drama can be good, it's really sloppy in execution most of the time. And I feel like if they cut it down to 20 or 30 minutes, it'd be a lot cooler. I hate gauntlet matches, let's be real quick. I don't know if that's just a me thing, but gauntlet matches are the most cringe thing ever to me because, the wrestler will wrestle and usually it'll all be like super quick and bad matches. And by the end, everybody's like, well, I just wasted 30 minutes of my life. So, I don't know if it's different for you guys, but I really hate gauntlet matches because there's just such a waste of time. And if they try and get this whole face goes through the entire gauntlet to lose to the heel, by the end, the face is so dead tired that the matches just kind of suck. 2 out of 3 falls matches. This is another one in ideation. It should be like up here because 2 out of 3 falls. Who's the best wrestler? This really decides. Blah 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 blah. But I think the execution of 2 out of 3 falls matches is always really sloppy because they always end with like 2 roll-ups and then some actual type of finish. So I'll put this one in decent as well. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch a 2 out of 3 falls match, but if they had it on between 2 good wrestlers, I would go watch it. This is a handicap match one, and I mean, they're just worse tag team matches. I would never go out of my way to watch a handicap match. And the idea is always to know they're just going to beat up on the face. Maybe the face will come back and win. They're very simple, and they don't happen often for a reason. They're not that good. Similarly, buried alive matches are essentially glorified casket matches. Although I think they're a little bit cooler because the idea of having someone buried alive is a little cooler than putting them in a casket. But they're gonna go right with the casket matches because they're both okay. Wouldn't go out of my way to watch a casket match unless it was The Undertaker, but they're still pretty cool in ideation. Hope you guys enjoyed my list. Tell me if I missed any, what other type of tier list you guys want to see, or if you disagree with what I'm saying. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Love you guys. Bye bye.